Hey guys, Tanya Rubin with our Wine Country Realtor, and today I am excited to be at Baily Winery with winemaker Phil Baily. Phil, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Thank you, Tanya. Pleasure to be here.
In the middle of this blustery winter Temecula day.
It's a fun day.
It is a beautiful day. Anyhow, I am so happy to be here and to learn a little bit more about the winery and learn a little bit more about you. So, can you tell me how Baily Winery came to be, for those who don't know the winery?
Well, I guess a midlife crisis or something. Carol and I and our two kids were living in the LA area. I was a little over 40, she was a little under 40, and I was Billy businessman and she was stay-at-home mom, and we decided that we wanted to move to the country and do something different and do something together especially. So we drew a little 100-mile radius around LA, and Temecula was in it. Came down here, saw what was happening, and got very excited about the pioneering atmosphere. There was nothing down here then, but there was a budding wine industry. And
so what year? So take us back a little bit, because we don't know how old you are now, and we're not going to do the math, but what year did you first kind of come here and do
that was in 1981.
So
1981, we moved here to Temecula.
We're talking, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like one stoplight?
No stoplights.
No stoplights.
One stop sign.
One stop sign. No 15, right?
15 was done, but there was for 2 miles, 1 mile north of Temecula and about a half a mile south of Temecula.
Laying the scene here. So you're truly like, this was, before the 15 came through, really difficult to access.
Yeah, it was 395. You from LA, you came down through Corona and along the hills there, Elsinore and so on. 395 was going through there, and then about just around Murrieta, a little south of Murrieta, you picked up a little freeway, and then it petered out before going up the hill to Rainbow Gap.
By the way, the Rainbow Highway, now that it's not the only option, can often be, just not during rush hour, a really beautiful scenic drive.
Yeah, the little
Rainbow
Highway. Yeah.
Those of you who remember it from the days when it was your only option probably don't see it that way, but it's a nice little...
Yeah, that's the way we went to Fallbrook, is up through that canyon. So.
Exactly. So you come down here, and the infancy of Temecula winemaking as we know it is here, and you're inspired.
Yeah, we got to know the people in the wine industry here, the Solurzos, the Harts, Callaway, Mount Palomar, the Poole family at Mount Palomar, and they'd all come from other professions, and they encouraged us, and so in.
Yeah, because a lot of the time, like you said, you were Mr. Businessman. How did we go from Mr. Businessman to farming the land and the science and art of winemaking? That's a definitely got to be a daunting transition.
Well, it was we took our time, and we had consulting help to begin with. We took courses at UC Davis. And
did you hire a consultant, or did you?
Yeah, we had a consulting winemaker.
You hired very early.
We made wine at home before we started the winery, and we started real small. But Joe Chirpin, the winemaker at Mount Palomar at the time, was helpful to us to begin with, and Mike Tingley and Joe Hart. We took a winemaking class from Joe Hart. So
I have heard that story as I've been having more of these conversations over and over again, and I do think it's one of the things that makes this valley special, is hearing about the collaboration and cooperation and support that established winemakers in the region have had with newcomers, and also the openness to learning and growing the craft and elevating the wines in the community.
So very definitely, it's we often say that our competition is not each other. Our competition is Napa. Our competition is Sonoma. And so the more that we establish the credibility of the region, the more it helps all of us. So all of us making good wine is good for all of us. So it's not one against the other. nobody would come here if there was only one good winery, or if my winery was the only good winery, what have you. So from the outside, it might look that we're doing something really, I can't think of the word, but anyway, we're doing what's logical to do.
Right,
you know,
right.
We're not
you're not haphazardly, like there's a collaboration. You realize you're stronger together.
Yeah, the word it just keeps escaping me. But anyway, forget it.
It'll come back in a minute. We'll just plug it back in. We'll put a pin in it and come back. Yeah, it is. I've seen that story though, and it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing in action to see that this has happened time and time again. So the winemakers are truly embracing that theory, and we are seeing results from that approach as well. It is paying dividends, as the Wine Enthusiast article that recently came out. If you haven't seen that, definitely look for that. But we were just chosen as a top 10 wine destination in the world.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen if it's just Baily Winery or
Exactly.
just Chapin. And as both, I've had the fortunate opportunity to speak with both Chapin and Nick Palumbo, and they have said the same thing, that hearts have come up numerous times. Who's the family at Danza?
Whether it was Phil Singer was there.
Yes,
to
Phil
begin.
Singer.
Yeah, the original owner there.
And how
Bill
cooperative and helpful they
Philsinger.
were.
Salurzo was one I mentioned.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
That you hear these pioneers' names come up over and over, and that they really have taken so many under their wing, offered classes. When you first started, you said you started small and you were making a little bit of wine for yourself. How many acres did you plant when you first got started?
We had planted 1 acre right here at the winery. We planted on a Mother's Day, 1982, so we call it Mother's Vineyard, and it's since been expanded to 5 acres.
So the primary planting for Baily is we're at the production facility here, indoors for the storms that are going on outside, and fun to be in the barrel room as well. But this is your production facility?
Yeah, this is it, and but this is one of our vineyards. It's 5 acres here, and then we have a 20-acre parcel behind Wilson Creek Winery on Verenda Road.
And then
at the tasting room, there's some more grapes. So overall, we have 25 acres of grapes. So we make all our wine from grapes that we grow here in Temecula. So we can use the term estate bottle, which is the legal term to describe that you grow all your own grapes and make all your own wine in the same appellation. So.
Very cool. So when you planted this first acre, take me through some of go a little walk down memory lane and take us back through what you said you did some courses at UC Davis. Which types of courses and what did you find useful? Winemaking.
Yeah, Davis has a good extension program where the same faculty that does their undergraduate and graduate degree teaching teaches these extension courses, and you go up 2-3 days up to Davis and get a concentrated course from these really good professors on how to make wine or how to grow grapes or what have you, or how to taste wine. That was one of the really fun ones, was the all-day description of the appreciation of wine and how to taste it. That's probably their most popular course.
I have no idea why that would be popular.
But a lot of people in the industry have taken that course, and the same guy still teaches it. We took it from 30 years ago.
Up at UC Davis.
Yeah.
What's his name?
John Dixonstein.
John Dixonstein. So if we have an opportunity and we're in UC Davis area, which is just north of San Luis Obispo?
No, it's up Sacramento, near Sacramento.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That go and take John Dixonstein's.
Yeah, Bixenstein, Buechенstein. So, but it's Bixenstein is the way it's pronounced.
All right.
But he's obviously a winemaker
and he's been doing it for a long time and teaching.
Great course. It's a fun course.
Oh, that is a little insider tip. I love it. I love it. So you take these courses and and now you're making wine.
Yeah.
And it was that simple?
Yeah, well, we've been doing it over 30 years now, so the first 15 was pretty much learning, and the last 15 has been refining. For the last 15 years, we've been making our wines in the same process from the same vineyards, with the same barrel regimen, and with the idea of the consistency. Every wine region is different, and it takes a while to learn how to make the best wine, how to get the most out of the region you're in. So we've, as I say, the last 15 years have been very consistent, and we're very proud of we like to do vertical tastings where we'll line up 6 or 8 wines of the same wine from 6 or 8 consecutive vintages, and go put them all in front of you at the same time, and taste them one by one, and compare them. Everybody that's ever done that with us has just gone away very impressed with, as I say, the consistency and the quality of the wines, and it's fun. It's nobody else here is doing it quite like we are. So
that is fun. I've been fortunate enough to do a tasting in your tasting room, and it's a really lovely experience.
Thank you,
do a nice job. Very informative. Pourers behind the bar who really know what you're doing at the winery, which is great. When you look at, not everyone has the opportunity, or when they're visiting down here, they want to do something down here. I have noticed there are a number of different wineries that are offering a smaller wine appreciation class. Are there any in your mind that you would stand out and go, oh, if you see a class here, definitely jump in and take that?
Yeah, you got me on that one.
I got you on that one?
Yeah, I don't.
I've always, because I see them.
Yeah, classes down here. There are classes at the
I've seen
San Jacinto College has classes, and
I see wine appreciation classes. I've seen Europa offer them. Thornton.
Yeah, I don't know.
Peltzer's been, not Peltzer. Faulkner's been doing some. And I just wondered if you were familiar with some of.
I'm not up on that right now.
Maybe we need Baily Winery to do one.
Well, we're the vertical tasting that I talked about is very much educational, that kind of thing. So
yeah, because.
But in terms of just about how to taste wine and so on, we're not doing that right now.
You don't always get that at some of one of the fun things about coming to the Valley and experiencing the Valley, I think, is the variety of experiences you can have, from your very small, smaller production and more intimate tasting rooms to your, elaborate restaurants, and then kind of in the middle, really almost every experience you would want. And when you come to your winery, I know you definitely get very informed people behind the counter pouring the wines and able to have a discussion. Sometimes you go to a winery and they just have someone who's pouring. So it's nice to have the different options. And sometimes sometimes you just want to go in and have a glass of wine. So every experience lends to a different path, for sure. Tell me more about the transition to moving to Temecula from Los Angeles, and what that was like for your family.
Well, I guess the biggest adjustment was for the kids, the 9 and 11-year-old, 2 boys, and they grew up on a 2-block street that didn't have through traffic, and every night there'd be 30 kids out in the street playing. And we get out here, we're living on 5 acres, and the nearest house is 1,000 feet away, and they've got a half-mile walk down to the bus to school. And
sure, they were thrilled.
They weren't real happy to begin with. But,
the experience of moving to Temecula today versus in 1981 is dramatically different.
One of the first things we did was we got them into 4-H, where they learned about farming and animals and so on. And Audrey Salerzo, the owner of Salerzo Winery, was was the leader of 4-H, and so the kids did that, and got to know the Solurzo kids who were about the same age. And
Nice.
so, and you know, obviously the school, they're going to see kids in the school, but neighbors, no. Like, for example, how far out we are, and we're still, you know, we don't have neighbors real close. We've lived here since 1981. What is that, 37 years or 38 years or something? And we've never had a trick-or-treater.
Well, but if you wandered over into Crown Hill or Morgan Hill or Harveston, you would probably encounter all the missing trick-or-treaters from your place and my place.
Exactly.
No one's climbing my hill to get a candy bar. I would have to start giving out gold bars, and then maybe they would come up my driveway. Wine Country's a little bit more rural still to this day.
Yeah, we've
sure.
been so lucky to be here. It's just a beautiful place to
kids
live. Still a beautiful place to live, even though there's a lot more people. But we knew that was going to happen. We're too close to San Diego and LA and Orange County, and it was such a great place that we knew it was going to grow. And,
well, to some extent, isn't that also why you moved here, to grow and for the opportunity that came with that?
You know, you're spending money, you're investing in a region, and you want to see that your values stay there, and you know, it was obvious that our values were going to increase moving to a place like this. So
right. It must be really fascinating to have that pioneering, to be kind of part of that pioneering core, and watch those seeds that you planted back in 1981 really coming to fruition. I feel like in the last few years. When do you think you felt like you saw the tide starting to shift for the area?
Well, the key thing was in the late 80s, John Marco, the general manager at Callaway, worked really hard with the county, and several of us helped him to come up with zoning that ensured that the vineyards would stay here. And we have very unique zoning, and if you look at Orange County, you know, there's no orange groves in Orange County anymore because it all became housing developments. Well, if we hadn't had this zoning, in the 90s, we could have lost the wine country to housing developments. And by having, I don't want to go into the details of zoning, but we have kept that same structure. The whole idea was zoning that we were going to become a destination type wine country. We were never going to be huge like Napa or Sonoma or Central Coast, but we were going to be a place where people came to see wine being made, see grapes growing, have fine wine, have food in a nice atmosphere. And the idea of hotels and restaurants and so on were all part of the general plan. But the key thing was anything of commercial had to be related to growing grapes. It had to be built off of that, and you have put in a hotel, 75% of your property has to be in grapes. And put in a winery, same thing. So
some of the foundation pieces that were put in place to ensure that this region was able to grow into what it's become happened in that late 80s.
In the late 80s.
So
right,
for those of you who aren't familiar, when you cross over Butterfield stage on Rancho California or on Anza and De Portola, the zoning changes so that you have to have a minimum number of acres per resident, and they have not, there's the density requirement is pretty strict because they wanted to foster and encourage the growth of the grapes. And some of the developments even, again, not getting into the nuances, but they will let you put X number of houses on X property provided you plant X number of acres.
Yeah. So the whole thing, any kind of commercial development has to be related to the wine experience and to the growing of grapes. So it's an agricultural, residential area that has commercial that's related to enjoyment of wine.
So Lisa has a question here watching. She's asking what you think some of the best changes you've seen are in this growth.
Well, I think, there's always been a real push to make better and better wine. So I think from the very beginning, Callaway was a major winery here, and they were the first winery, and they made fantastic wine. So I'm not saying that there wasn't good wine. We knew way back when that great wine could be made here, and we're just continuing to prove it. So I think that the hard part has been getting the recognition when you're the new guy.
Sure.
You just don't. In the wine business, you know, it's kind of like a wine writer. Oh, they're the new guys, you know.
Well, and wine tends to be steeped in deep traditions.
Yeah, but you know, we've passed that. You know, we're 50 years old now. So, I mean, we're older than most of the people, you know, we're
older than most of the people
you know, that are around now, you know.
Most
I mean,
of the
you
critics.
got to be 50 years old to over 50 years old to have been born before we were here. So that's helped our credibility a lot. So I think, you know, so many people have been active in the professional community to get respect. When you get the respect of your peers in the wine industry, then that is a key thing to the public, to your reputation. So,
yeah.
So I think the reputation of the wine country now is way above what it was 40 years ago, and not because the individual wines are that much better, but just because there's more of them. More personally, you know, our wines are better than they were 30 years ago because, you know, we know more what we're doing now.
Yeah,
you know?
you're a better winemaker.
And we know more how to grow grapes in this terroir, as they say in the wine business. So.
Very Italian, south of France style.
So.
Terroir that we have here,
Yeah,
with the drier.
You know, some of it's hard to make the exact comparisons to Europe because Europe is.
People like
well,
to,
but it's higher latitude. They got the Gulf Stream. You know, the Atlantic Ocean is warm up there, and the Pacific Ocean is cold. So, you know, if you try to do it too much, you kind of lose sight of it. For example, at Bordeaux, where they make the great Cabernet Sauvignons, is a totally different climate than Napa, where they make great Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
So.
Two different regions who both make excellent versions of a.
The grape is an amazing plant. It produces the greatest beverage in the world, and it's hardy. It grows anywhere, and
he's not biased at all.
Any region can make great wine if you have attention to detail and if you don't screw it up along the way somewhere. You know.
So speaking of great wine and the grape, what is your favorite, or do you have a favorite grape to grow?
Yeah, Cabernet Sauvignon, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just really a great grape. It's hardy. Sauvignon means wild. You know, it grows very profusely. The color is always really nice. The berry size,
it can thrive under our conditions.
Well, you know, our conditions are, you know, same as conditions in the northern end of the Napa Valley. You know,
they like the heat in the summer.
You need heat. That's one of the reasons why they put such a big thing on good years and bad years in Bordeaux, is because a lot of years they don't have enough heat. Bad year in Bordeaux is when the grapes didn't get ripe. In California, they always get ripe. So
that is a very good point.
Without getting too geeky on this stuff.
Let's get geeky. I love getting geeky. That's the best part.
But no, there's different ways of measuring heat. It's a very complex thing. You know, higher latitudes have longer days of sunlight than they do at lower latitudes. You know, grapes grow because they get the radiation from the sun, and they grow by photosynthesis. And it isn't the heat; it's the light actually that's making them grow. So,
oh, interesting.
So there's more light during the day in Napa than there is here. We're cooler at night here than the northern end of the Napa Valley because we have more of an ocean influence. The southern end of the Napa Valley is another thing. They're close
They're
to
a
the
whole
ocean.
other microclimate.
They're close to the ocean, but I'm talking about up around Calistoga or even Rutherford. We pretty much track that, and one way I know this is that Chateau Montelena is one of the better wineries up there in Calistoga. I've been there a long time. They make some really nice Cabernet, and they pick their Cabernet at about the same sugar level that we do at about the same time we do. So. A lot of people don't realize that, they think Southern California is hot, and they stop there.
They stop there and they don't dig
And they
deeper.
don't realize that there are places in Southern California which are really unique, and Temecula is the uniquest.
I love it. I love it. So talking about the grapes and when you pick them, that is an art and a science, as I've learned from many conversations. What do you look for? What is your science and approach here?
I'm looking for sugar.
Okay.
A lot of them look more for the pH and the acid and so on. But the key thing, and I've learned how to do this. As I say, I've worked with this same vineyard for 30 years now. I know when I pick the grapes at 23.5% sugar, I'm going to get the wine I want. And that might be in September 10th one year, and it might be October 10th the next year. But that's what I'm doing to pick. I get the flavors I want at those levels. There is a kind of a trend. I think it's not a trend anymore. I think it's subsiding, but there was a trend to pick grapes at very high sugar levels and to get a kind of more concentrated flavor. To me, I found that when you do that, you lose the finesse and the elegance, and all you get left with is the power, and you get with too much alcohol, and what our people do when they get too much, they get too high a sugar, then they add water back to the grapes. I never do that. I don't want to do that.
Which then reduces the concentration
Yeah,
that you were going
and
to
then you're
in the
back
first
to it.
place.
Yeah, but you got different flavors. So I get the flavors I want with the grapes that I'm growing at 23.5, 24% sugar, something like that.
So you
that's
have
what I
a-
do.
you just
It's work.
have-
It
you
works
look
for me.
That
Works for me.
level, and then you pick.
Yeah.
So.
And there's all kinds of things during harvest, everybody is busy, and you say, oh, the grapes are perfect, it's Wednesday, I want to pick tomorrow, and then you go to get pickers, and I can't get to you till Monday or something. You have to deal with that. But over the years, I've learned that, okay, if they're 22.5 today, it's Tuesday, they're
Call
gonna...
for the pickers on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm saying, let's pick Friday, because I know that, I'm going to get a degree a
Friday,
week
you're
or whatever.
going to be at that 23
so-
by looking at the weather, I'm sure.
and what the history has been. So,
Well, you've been doing it for a little while.
so yeah, and I keep doing it as long as the good Lord lets me. So.
Do you have anyone or a similar story of collaboration? I know, for example, when Chapin and Daffo were starting, they shared a lot of equipment and ran it back and forth across the driveway. Did you have an experience similar to that, where you kind of had a partner, unofficial partner that you really were hand in hand with?
Well, not just one or anything, but the first 10, 15 years, there was a dozen wineries here, and so. Something breaks down, your crusher breaks down, you call another winery, can I borrow your crusher today, So that happened all the time.
But the answer was always yes.
Of course, yeah. So.
I love these stories where you hear that in these days when you couldn't just go on Amazon and get it tomorrow, that you, and even if you could, wouldn't necessarily have the resources or the budget to do so, that you guys really came together and were the anchor for what we've become here in the Valley. It's just amazing. I love to ask people when they're here and when we're having these conversations, when you first arrived, there wasn't much here, but now Temecula has grown up a lot and developed. If you and Carol have a free evening, what are your favorite spots to go and visit in Temecula? On the spot. Not leaving any of your favorites out, but your top choice for a date night in all your spare time.
You know, at this point in time, we're working all day, and our favorite place is to get in bed and read at about 8:30 or something like that. So,
you have
you
like
know,
a favorite restaurant that you love to go and...
You know, our favorite thing to do is since Carol runs a restaurant too, where our weekends are Monday and Tuesday, and so our favorite place is to go up to Idlewild. We have a place up in Idlewild, which is an hour away, and totally different climate, and there's a lot of snow up there right now.
Yeah,
and so, but I'm not the guy to ask for
so your
for
favorite
restaurant
thing to do is a
recommendations
little getaway.
right now. My favorite restaurants are all restaurants that closed 30 years ago.
You're like, we don't want to do restaurants. You own a restaurant and run a restaurant. The last
that's another thing. You get over, when you've been in something so long, you get overly critical. You know, I'm not complaining, but it is harder to enjoy things than it was when you knew less about them. So.
Right, because you're sitting there in your mind going, well, this is okay, but it really should be like X.
Yeah, but wine is, I tell you, it's just, I still love to, Carol and I, we drink maybe half our own wine, but we just love to find new wines, and we continually are looking.
What about dare I ask if you have like your favorite spots winery-wise to visit? It's always hard because no one wants to leave anyone out, but I'm sure there's some favorite wines in the valley.
I'm going to duck that one.
He has too many friends and doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I can respect that.
There's everybody makes good wine, and there may be some inconsistencies here and there. It may be a wine that maybe is made, they didn't have it's the first year they made it from those grapes or whatever. So there's all kinds of things that account for variation, but any place you go here is going to have nice wine that you like.
And wine is subjective. What you love,
everybody likes something different anyway.
Are probably two different wines.
But
and what I love, that's one of the beauties of wine is
everybody's taste is different. That's a scientific fact. So everybody's getting little different flavors and little different textures, and people are more sensitive to tannins than others. There is a variation in taste buds. There's a huge variation in taste buds from person to person. And in general, women have more taste buds than men. And this can all be determined by, they have a little process where they put this dye on a piece of paper and put it in your mouth, and it maps the taste buds. And they can look at this and see if you have a lot or few. And this means if you have a lot of taste buds, you're going to be more sensitive to tannin. You're going to, red wines are going to, you're going to want softer than the person next to you that says, oh, this is just perfect. So that's one good example.
I love this. This is so fascinating.
So
because I did know that that children tend to have more sensitive taste buds, which is why they tend to like food that we would consider blander, and that evolves as we age. I didn't realize that there was a science. I don't know how it varies.
Maybe they haven't developed the taste buds as much. Maybe they grow more as you get older. That could be. I don't know that aspect.
That part of it, but I didn't know this aspect of it. Which is fascinating.
But anyway, when I say women have more, that doesn't mean that every woman has more than every man. But it's just that's a general trend, is that women have more taste buds.
So does that translate into women preferring a different type of wine, a different style of wine more often than men?
Yeah, I think it probably does. I don't know exactly. These things tend to change too. So much of it is psychological kind of things too. I think
you had a beautiful Chardonnay one day, and you had a great day with that Chardonnay, and now
they're
you love Chardonnay.
emotional too. But I know 30 years ago, most people drank white wines, and now we get people coming to the tasting room all the time that don't want to taste a white wine. They can only taste red wines. I find this baffling because red and whites are both great wines, and they go with different foods. But I think there's you know, there's maybe a macho kind of thing going on there, you know, that red wine is somehow more macho than white wine or something. I think that's what I mean by psychological.
Okay.
And I've actually called people on that before, you know, friends that, you know, what the hell, why do you only like red wine? What do you think, there's something feminine about having a white wine or something, you know? And
I do know one gentleman who I will not name, that a coworker who always drinks will often drink a sparkling wine in like a Moscow Mule cup. And I think that is exactly that, because there is a perception on a gentleman with a glass of champagne, which there's really no reason for it, but that is a social kind of strain.
It's fun to just see this, the trends especially. I just find it very interesting that, I mean, back when people were mostly into white wines, you know, I can understand why they didn't like the red wines, because they were harsher, you know, because you had the tannins and so on. And just a glass of wine by itself, you know, a cold white wine is, for most people, is a little more refreshing than a room temperature red wine.
Sure.
You know, now when you have a steak in front of you, then everything changes. But
yeah.
so, but anyway, I can't understand the people now that like only red wines. I cannot understand that. White wines taste great, you know.
From Phil Baily, start appreciating and enjoying. His tip of the week is to open your palate to the white wine.
Yes, yes.
Don't be color biased in your wine selection.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do we think of the blush wines?
Blush wines are very interesting because when Carol and I first got into wines, there was a Grenache rosé that we used to have, an inexpensive Grenache rosé that was on the dry side that we used to buy all the time and used to love. And then over the years, rosés got to be cheap, sweet wines in jugs, and so rosés got a bad name. This is in California I'm talking about, so people went away from rosés because they found the excess sweetness off-putting. So, and I can understand that too, because I like drier wines. So. So now we have a big change going on right now, and the dry rosés are really starting to take off right now. We make a rosé from Sangiovese that's a drier style that's a really nice wine. And
Lisa's chiming in that she is not at all color biased in her wine. She loves all colors and enjoys them all. I think that's not a bad approach to wine tasting and wine enjoyment in general.
But you know, you ask about rosés. When I just saw an interesting statistic the other day. You know, in France, where they drink a lot of wine, the number one type of wine in France, drunk by Frenchmen, is rosé.
So real Frenchmen drink rosé.
They drink more rosé than white or red. You know, I mean, they drink all three of them, but. You know, rosé is very versatile. It's nice on a hot summer day.
That's actually when I found for my own taste that I typically, before moving to the region, would drink wine kind of under the scenario you described at first, which is kind of with a meal, and so you would have a steak with a glass of red, and that was most of my wine. And then my husband likes red wine, so if we were having a bottle of wine, I would defer to, well, if you're having red, that's fine. But when we moved here and started going and exploring the different wineries, especially given that that's an activity often reserved for the afternoon, in the heat of a 90-degree day, I don't want to be tasting a room temperature red wine. I want to try the whites, and so it's really expanded my windows of what I enjoy trying. Largely because, again, 95 degrees, I don't want a red wine yet. Wait till it's later in the day and I'm having, you know, some food with it, or a piece of chocolate. That's my probably favorite way to finish a day, is with a glass of wine and a piece of chocolate. Nothing wrong with that, right?
No.
Yeah. Fascinating. I did not know that Frenchmen drank rosé, too. The things you're going to learn here in Temecula, Uncorked, people. Frenchmen drink rosé. Well, this has been just an absolute delight. Is there anything else that you want everyone here watching? Does anyone else watching have another question for Phil about what's, maybe like just to wrap up, like, are there any things that you see for the future of Temecula that you're excited about?
Well, this article that you mentioned that calls us one of the top 10 wine destinations in the world, I think we're going to build on that, and I think
that was just massive.
We're definitely on the road to becoming a real world-class wine destination, and this is a nice little kick to push us in that direction. So I think we have a strong wine growers association where we get together and talk about how we can work together and build this region even more. And I think the next 10 years is going to be you're going to see a tremendous interest in our little valley here. So.
The future is indeed bright. You guys have done an amazing job laying the stage and setting the foundation, and continue to work towards that end goal. It's just phenomenal. Well, this has been an absolute joy. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you know someone who loves wine and loves winemaking and wants to learn more about it, please share this video with them. Also, remember in April we are hosting an organ donor registration drive. If you know someone in the Temecula Valley or close to the Temecula Valley who is waiting for an organ, waiting for bone marrow, please reach out to me. I will send you the information as we are forming and organizing that event and trying to make sure we find the stories of those people and the families that are waiting so we can get their stories out and share them and get more people registered. So please have them reach out to me. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back again on Monday with a roundup of what's coming up next week in Temecula. Thank you for watching this special edition of Temecula Uncorked with Phil Baily today over at the production facility on Pauba Road. Happy to be here. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.